of the Conference Board. She joins me now. Dana, great to have you on the show. Look, let me pick up on that story of Goldman really battening now the hatches and preparing for a recession. Just explain, how does a company prepare for a recession?
Sure. Well, lots of companies will look to dial down unnecessary expenses or things that are extraneous to the business. But certainly, many businesses may also look to shed workers. However, our own survey of CEOs out of the US suggests that even though 98% of them expect that there is a recession coming in the US, very few of them are looking to actually cut the number of employees they have, only about 16%. Most businesses are expecting to actually make no changes to their labor forces, and some are even looking to expand their labor forces.
And on the survey, in terms of CEO confidence, just explain to our viewers what you are hearing. We show there the figures of what expectation is for a recession in the US and the EU area. But what are they worried? What are CEOs worried about here?
Well, I mean, number one, CEOs are going to be worried about loss of profits. And certainly many CEOs and businesses have already been hit by very elevated inflation through their supply chains, also as wages are rising, especially in the US, given labor shortages. And so they're very concerned about those hits to profit margins. They're also concerned about how much inflation pressures they can push through to customers, certainly as customers are coming under strain. Certainly, central banks, both in Europe and the US, are raising interest rates to combat inflation, and especially in Europe, energy price inflation. So I think there are a lot of things on the minds of CEOs right now. And they're also very concerned about geopolitics and how geopolitics play into disrupting supply chains and manufacturing of key goods like food and energy and metals that go into the products that they're producing.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you heard Matt Egan, just before you came on, Dana, he was talking about Fitch ratings, basically saying is expecting a 99-style recession, so milder than what we have seen. What are CEOs expecting? A mild recession, a deeper recession? What are you hearing?
Sure. Well, 85% of CEOs expect that the recession in the U.S. is going to be mild, brief, and it won't have global spillovers. Only a very small percentage expect that it's going to be worse, certainly in comparison to recent recessions we've seen back in 2008 and, of course, with the pandemic. But certainly when they're looking at Europe, they overwhelmingly expect that Europe is going to experience a deep and lengthy recession, again linked back to energy prices rising as Russia has basically cut off supplies of natural gas in response to sanctions, in response to the war in Ukraine.
Given then this level of pessimism, be it in Europe, be it in the US, does it raise concerns, Dana, that a recession could be a self-fulfilling prophecy here, where by slowing investment, preparing for recession, CEOs end up causing a recession?
I don't think so. And that's mainly because the reason why interest rates are rising very aggressively is due to inflation. And inflation reflects both supply drivers, geopolitics, and also demand. And really, central banks can only kind of tackle the demand aspects. So I think, as interest rates are rising very quickly and central banks are trying to slow down that demand, part of that is to get businesses to shift gears and to, yes, prepare for a recession. So I don't think it's necessarily a self-fulfilling prophecy where CEOs are talking themselves into a recession. They're just looking at the tea leaves. They're looking at rising inflation, rising rates, and higher cost of capital. And so in that environment, it makes sense that they're going to batten down the hatches and pull back somewhat.
Very quickly, I mean, any bright spots in the economy?
Well, certainly in the U.S., when we look at consumer confidence, consumers right now, according to our own measure, are still pretty sanguine. And a big reason is that most of them are still working. The labor market's quite robust in the U.S. We're still seeing job openings at 10 million, and many businesses are still hiring. And so all of that suggests that consumers are seeing higher wages and also income come in. The only problem is that a lot of that income is being eroded by elevated inflation. But certainly the strong labor market is a bright spot in the U.S. economy.
That's very good news, and we'll be talking labour market in about 20 minutes or so right here on the show. Dana Peterson, really appreciate you taking time to speak to us here. Thank you. Well,
Thank
the